Hannah's Diary Dreams, Diary, and Everything in Between. By Huria Arif. Chapter 6, Strange Eyes in Winter. January, a chilly afternoon. The sun hung low, casting a golden net over the frostbitten grass in the backyard. It wasn't quite evening yet, but the hush of winter afternoons had already settled in. The cold made everything quieter. Conversations, footsteps, even the laughter of children playing seemed softer, like it didn't want to disturb the stillness. Hannah tugged her coat tighter as she watched Nora and Ashley hop across the garden tiles, pretending they were magic stones. Ashley, with her strawberry blonde hair and wide smile, was nearly the same age as Nora. The two had grown close in just a matter of months. They were always making up silly rhymes or playing tea party beneath the half-bare tree in the corner. Simon, Ashley's older brother, was lounging nearby. 14 and round-faced with cheeks that stayed pink in every season, he was known in the neighborhood for his goofy sense of humor and bottomless appetite. But lately, Hannah had noticed something different. He wasn't making jokes. He wasn't even playing. Just watching. At first, she thought she was imagining it, catching his eyes on her whenever she turned. But then it became too consistent. He'd try to speak sometimes, just casual words, but Hannah would find an excuse to move away or look busy. She wasn't trying to be rude. It was just complicated. She remembered her mother's words too well. Good girls don't get too frank with boys. Your father wouldn't like it. Set an example for your younger sister. Don't laugh too much in public. It doesn't suit a graceful girl. Whether or not her father actually said those things didn't matter. Her mother believed he would, and that was enough. It shaped how Hannah walked, talked, smiled, everything. It kept her cautious, careful, and quiet in all the places where other girls her age laughed loudly and made new friends easily. But today, something was bothering her more than usual. Simon wasn't playing with Zach anymore. Zach had grown up overnight, it seemed. 16 had brought along a new world of friends, new plans, and long hours spent out of the house. So Simon had started hanging around the park edge instead, watching the girls. Watching her. Why do you ignore Simon like always? Nora asked that afternoon when they were alone in their room, undoing the knots in their jump ropes. What are you talking about? Hannah's voice sharpened more than she intended. Shame flushed her face. Simon said you ignore him, Nora said simply, twirling the rope like a ribbon. He looked worried about it. And I feel like it's kind of true. Hannah's mind swirled. She hadn't realized Simon noticed her rejections that much, let alone enough to feel something about them. She felt exposed. Seen. And not in a good way. Can't you be friends? Like me and Ashley? Nora went on. Just then, their mother called from the kitchen, Nora. Look what I've made for you. Always the food taster, Nora bounced off her bed like it was spring-loaded. Coming. Hannah sat still. Alone with her thoughts now. How can I ignore someone I never really noticed, she whispered to herself. She looked out the window where the soft light touched the park benches. A place that used to hold summer memories and giggles now felt uncomfortable, like a stage where she was being watched. Maybe I shouldn't go to the park anymore, she thought. A small, strange feeling settled in her chest. Not guilt. Not fear. Just awkwardness. A kind of unfamiliar tension she didn't quite have words for. But whatever it was, she didn't like it. Chapter 7, Into the Wild. The chill of January mornings had its own music, the crackle of frost on leaves, the hush of breath in the air, and a quiet thrill that hung between school corridors like a promise waiting to be unwrapped. It was at assembly that the principal, in her firm yet animated voice, made an announcement that sent a rush of joy through Hannah's veins. This year's winter outdoor adventure camp is open to students from grades 7 to 10. Limited slots, those interested, collect your forms from the coordinator's office. Adventure. Winter. Learning. Friends. Freedom. Hannah felt her heart somersault. She couldn't wait to tell her parents. That evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace, Hannah bounced into the room, face glowing. Mom. Dad. Our school is arranging a winter camp. We'll be learning survival skills, how to hike through snow, how to make a fire without matches, and exploring nearby trails. There'll be teachers, guards, everything. I want to go. Her excitement spilled like warm cocoa in a cold cup. Mom raised an eyebrow and sipped her tea calmly. Only if you were going to go. But unfortunately, you're not. The room stilled. Mom. That's not fair. Zach has been going to that camp for 2 years. Why is it always a no for me? Because, my delicate little girl, Mom said with the same air she used when denying second scoops of dessert, Zach's not going this year. And I don't want you alone in the cold. Dad, Hannah turned to her last hope, eyes pleading. You know I can take care of myself. I'm 13, not 3. There will be teachers, guards, the same ones who were with Zach. Fred looked at his daughter. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She had her mother's fire and her own kind of quiet strength. You're my Knight Rider, Han. Beauty with brains. I trust you. It's a yes from me. But Fred, Mom began. Come on, Sophia, he chuckled, putting a hand on hers. You know the staff. You know they're responsible. And she's got more sense than most teenagers I know. Before Mom could push back, Zach swooped in like the family's emergency negotiator. Mom, let her go. I'm not going this year because I already know everything they teach there. First year was exciting, second was just friends. Now it's just cold hikes and cold food. That's not helping, Mom said, narrowing her eyes. What I mean is, it's Hannah's first time. She should get that first-time thrill. Let her feel the freedom, the fun, the fear, the frostbite. I mean, not the frostbite, but you know what I mean. And she's setting an example for me, Nora chimed in, mirroring her mother's own catchphrase. At that, Mom gave an exasperated sigh, unable to hide her smile. Fine. But don't blame me if you come back with a cold and bruises. Deal. Hannah squealed, hugging her dad first, then jumping into Zach's arms. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Fred winked at Zach. Well played, son. Later that night, while the house sank into its quiet rhythm and Nora slept with a half-eaten cookie on her pillow, Hannah opened her diary. She flipped past poems and rants, stopped at a fresh page, and uncapped her pen with reverence. January 17th. They said no. Then they said yes. Because Dad believes I can do anything. Because Zach sees me growing. Because maybe, just maybe, I'm not a little girl anymore. I'm going to the winter camp. This time next week, I'll be under the stars, in the cold, learning to survive. Not just the weather, but fears, doubts, and whatever stares Simon throws my way. This is my beginning. She folded her diary, clutching it to her chest. The adventure hadn't even begun, but she already felt brave. Tomorrow, she'd pack. Tonight, she'd dream. Chapter 8, Into the Snow. January 21st, 25th. Winter Outdoor Adventure Camp. 5 days, 4 nights. There was something magical about stepping off the school bus and onto a world powdered in white. Snowflakes twirled like tiny dancers from the sky, crunching under boots as Hannah took her first step into the campgrounds nestled at the edge of Pine Hill Forest. The camp cabins stood like cozy wooden mushrooms blanketed in snow, and the smell of pine and hot cocoa drifted through the air. Hannah was placed in Cabin E, Foxborough, along with her best friend Lily, Maya, Jade, and 3 other girls she didn't know but would soon bond with over shared socks, marshmallows, and midnight ghost stories. Day 1, Welcome to Wild Life. They learned how to pitch tents, even though they'd be sleeping in cabins. Their guide, Miss Carter, a brisk, confident woman with freckles and a no-nonsense attitude, taught them to layer their clothes for warmth, avoid frostbite, and what to do if they ever got lost in the woods. Rule number 1, she said, holding up a hand. You panic, you perish. Hannah wrote that one down in her diary that night, in neat capital letters. That evening, they built a fire from scratch, no lighters, no matches. Just flint, dry leaves, and the heat of determination. Day 2, survival mode on. Snowshoeing through the forest was harder than it looked. The snow was deep and cold and made her calves ache, but she pushed forward, laughing with Lily and trying not to fall. That afternoon, they practiced building makeshift shelters with tarps and branches. Hannah's group made the sturdiest one. Miss Carter gave them high fives and extra marshmallows that evening. They ended the day with storytelling by the bonfire. That night, as logs crackled in the bonfire and campers huddled around sipping hot cocoa, the instructor encouraged them to share a spooky or funny tale. Lily, ever the performer, raised her hand dramatically. I've got one, she said, standing up. It's horrifying, and hilarious. Everyone leaned in. So last summer, my cousins dared me to sleep in the tent alone in my grandma's backyard. You know, classic bravery test. I said, piece of cake, and took snacks, a flashlight, and my sketchbook inside. I was feeling brave, until I heard scratching. Hannah gasped dramatically, playing along. Scratching, a boy echoed. Lily nodded, eyes wide. Yes. From inside the tent. I thought it was a raccoon, or a squirrel with a chainsaw. I screamed and flung the zipper open, only to find. Everyone held their breath. My grandma's cat. Inside my bag of chips. Eating. Unbothered. Like he owned the tent. I scared myself half to death because of Mr. Whiskers. The group burst into laughter. But wait, Lily continued, the story doesn't end there. I ran screaming into the house, tripped on the garden gnome, and fell right into my uncle's lap. He was on a video call with his boss. I became the official meme of the family for the rest of the year. Even the teachers chuckled. Hannah wiped tears of laughter from her eyes and whispered, "You're so ridiculous." Lily smirked. And proud. That night, as they zipped up their sleeping bags, Hannah whispered, "Camp is way better with you here." Lily smiled in the dark. Same. Day 3, lessons in courage. They went hiking along the ridge of Pine Hill. It was icy, and the winds howled, but the view from the top was breathtaking. Mountains dipped into valleys like a frozen wave, and the sun glinted off the snow like diamonds. Later, during a group trust activity, they had to guide each other blindfolded through an obstacle course. When it was Hannah's turn to lead, everyone followed her calmly. She felt something shift inside her, a quiet power she hadn't realized she had. That night in her diary, she wrote, "I feel braver than I've ever felt. Maybe it's not just the camp. Maybe it's me." Day 4, the quiet before change. The storm rolled in at midnight, wind howling like a wild animal outside their cabin. They lost power for a few hours. Some girls got scared. Hannah helped Jade find her flashlight and wrapped an extra blanket around Lily, who was shivering. "You're like a mini Miss Carter," Lily said, smiling weakly. Hannah blushed, but her chest swelled with pride. Day 5. Goodbye to the woods. The bus ride back was filled with sleepy heads and soft chatter. As trees blurred past, Hannah stared out the window, her fingers tracing invisible lines on the glass. She thought about Nora, probably waiting with hot chocolate. About Mum, who'd likely pretend she hadn't missed her, and Dad, who'd definitely say, "Told you she could do it." And she thought about school, about not shrinking back when Simon looked at her. About walking down that corridor like she owned it. That night, she wrote one last time before turning off the light. January 25th. 5 days. 5 days away from comfort, from routine, from the version of me I thought I had to be. I learned how to survive in the snow, how to lead blindfolded, how to start a fire. But more than that, I learned I don't need to be watched over like a fragile thing. I am stronger than I thought. I don't know how, but I feel it, something has changed. I've changed. And when I go back to school, life won't be the same. I won't let it be. She closed the diary, turned off her lamp, and slipped under the covers. A new version of Hannah, bolder, braver, and more certain, fell asleep with a quiet smile on her face. Chapter 9, A Welcome Home and an Unexpected Visitor. The house smelled of cinnamon, buttered rolls, and something spicy, chicken fajitas, Hannah guessed. She dropped her duffel bag at the door and blinked at the warm, bright kitchen that now felt cozier than ever. She's here. Nora squealed, running over and wrapping her arms around Hannah's waist. I missed you so much, even though I tried not to. Hannah laughed, tousling her sister's hair. I missed you too, Bug. Frederick, Dad, walked in with open arms. There's my adventurer. Come here, Knight Rider. Hannah hugged him tight. It was amazing, Dad. We learned how to build snow shelters, went hiking up the ridge, and even cooked using solar cookers. In the snow. Seriously? Fred's eyes widened. Solar cookers? In that weather? Now that's impressive. She beamed with pride. You should have seen me. I led the morning hike on the third day. And Lily told this ridiculous cat story around the bonfire. Everyone was in stitches. Nora giggled. Did you write all about it in your diary? I started. I still have to finish the last 2 days. And draw a very dramatic cartoon of Lily falling in the snow. Zach walked in just in time, smirking. Look at you, all frostbitten and glowing with confidence. Proud of you, Squirt. Thanks, Zach. For convincing Mum. At the mention of Mum, everyone turned toward the kitchen, where Sophia stirred a steaming pot. Oh, hello Hannah, she said, not turning. Didn't even notice you came back. I was too busy cooking for the family. Hannah grinned. Right, and accidentally made every single one of my favorite dishes? Sophia turned, faking surprise. Did I? Oh my. Must be a coincidence. They all laughed, except Mum, who tried, and failed to hide her smile. The next morning, Hannah woke up groggy. Her throat felt dry and her nose stuffy. Her body ached from the hikes, and she couldn't even finish her breakfast. I think I caught a cold, she mumbled, flopping back into bed with her diary. Camp hangover, Zach joked. Mum fluffed a pillow under her head. You need rest, not hikes and frozen noodles. Solar noodles, Hannah corrected weakly. Later that evening, just as she began to doze off again, there was a knock at the door. That must be Simon, Mum said offhandedly as she headed to answer. He's been asking about you girls all week. Simon? Hannah sat up abruptly. Her heart did a nervous somersault. Nora ran to the door while Hannah tried to make sense of her whirling thoughts. What is he doing here? If he's here to meet Zach, well, he's not home right now. And why did Mum say he's been asking about us? Hannah. Nora called. It's Simon. Too late to hide. She stood up slowly and stepped into the hallway, just as Simon was stepping in. There was a flicker of surprise, and relief, on his face when he saw her. Hey. Hannah, he said, a little out of breath. Where have you been? She opened her mouth but found no words. I mean. Ashley was missing you, and Nora. It's been like 10 days, and we thought something happened. He looked at her, concerned. Your mum said you weren't feeling well. Are you okay? I was at the winter camp, she managed to say softly. Right. Zach told me. I saw him last weekend, he brought Nora to the park. That's when he mentioned the camp. Simon glanced at her bundled up self and added, I was just expecting you to show up in the park today. But when you didn't, again, I got worried. So I came to check. His eyes flicked nervously to the floor. Anyway, sorry, I should let you rest. I've said too much. Bye. And just like that, he turned and hurried off, leaving a slight breeze in his wake. Hannah stood there frozen. Not from the cold. What just happened? There was something in his voice. The way he said worried. The way he looked at her like Dad did when she had a fever. Or how Zach did before her first big school presentation. She didn't know what it meant, but it meant something. Later that night, she opened her diary. Day 6 post-camp. I thought the best thing about this week was climbing a ridge or leading the hike. But I was wrong. The best thing might just be seeing that spark of care in someone's eyes you never expected. Even if he ran off like he forgot how legs work. She smiled at the page and closed the diary. And her heart felt a little warmer. Thank you so much for listening to this audiobook. Stay tuned for next chapters.